All right, welcome back, guys. We're going to have some fun with connectors now. And b- before we start here, I do want to apologize for the fan sound in the background. This app makes my fan run pretty hot in my MacBook Air, so it's something I tried to prevent, but I really just haven't found a good way to keep it cool. I've even gone so far as putting ice packs underneath it, but just the processing power that this takes, as well as recording the video at the same time, makes it so that I do have some fan noise. So apologies for that, but hopefully we can get past that. I'm going to click on this connector to get started. I work at a company called Storefront, and we're focused on short-term retail space. So what they call those in the industry right now is pop-ups. So what we'd like to do is pay attention to pop-up news. So we've got a couple different examples of blogs that we follow that are important for us to follow because they report all of the pop-ups. So when we see a pop-up happens, there's three things that we want to do. One, we want to understand who the author is that wrote about it and make sure that we're establishing a relationship with those authors. Two, we want to know who the retailer is that did the pop-up or whoever did the pop-up themselves. And then three, we also want to know where they hosted the pop-up because those are all three potential leads for us, and two of them are clients, and one of them would be somebody that we could make a relationship with in terms of the PR channel. So we're going to go to Racked. Rack is all about shopping and, in fact, knows a lot about pop-ups. So here we go. Select connector. We'll get to extractor and crawler later on. And it wants you to navigate to the page where you're going to start, and this is it. So I click I'm there. Now with a connector, it wants to record your interactions on the site. So click record, and I know it's kind of weird when you see this blinking recording button, you're thinking, okay, it's recording video, but it's really not. What it is recording your interactions on the site. If you're having issues pulling up pages ever, you can hit click not working, and what will happen is it will actually switch around and change some things automatically behind the scenes and try and reload the page for you and have you test it a couple times and try to make it so that the data that you need is there. So what we're going to do is type in pop-up. Alright, now this is actually the page that I want to get the data off of, so I'm going to hit stop. If you had to continue to go and click through and things like that, you could actually have it click through and follow and trace your interactions. So now it's got these settings optimized here, and the info is still here. So I'm going to click yes. Perfect. Now I need to label which one of these was a search input, and since it's only that one interaction there, done. And let's go to the next step. This is where you select what the results page looks like. It's good to just let essentially import.io, the app, know what kind of page it's landed on. So we're gonna go with multiple because it's a multiple list here, and it's asking now if there's a total results count, and there is. So we're gonna click yes. And would we like to include pagination? So what that means is, would we like it to go from page 1 to page 2, page 3, etc.? And yes, in this case we would, though you might not always want that. If you're just trying to pay attention to, say, like the 10 newest articles, something like that, you can do that. And actually, maybe for just simplicity's sake, we'll do that this time. So in this case, we're assuming that we've gone back and seen all the different pop-ups that were available, or that had been reported on by Racked previously, and all we want is this first page of 25 results, which is a pretty good amount of results. Great. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to train our rows. Now this is the first time that you've done this, so you're going to see different highlights here, and this is happening automatically. I'm not clicking or anything like that. But what you want to do is you want to get kind of this whole individual selection up here, this first result in there. So if you move your cursor around enough, you'll start to get a hang for getting that data. So I click on it, it selects all that data, and I'm going to click train rows. So now it's got one. And so it's important, you think about like a spreadsheet. moving horizontally there, this is going to be all pieces of data that I want in that same row to recognize it as one kind of entry, right? So after this, we'll define columns, which will say, like, these individual pieces of data, etc. But for now, we want the whole result. If it weren't allowing me to select this whole thing, you would actually want to copy and hard scroll over and select these things with your mouse. But it's letting me select them because it's pretty structured. So I'm going to click train row here, and here's where the magic happens. It recognizes the pattern. It won't always happen in two kind of highlights and two trainings. Sometimes it's a little bit harder for it to recognize it, but in this case, it's pretty clear cut. So it gets all 25 results, which is fantastic and part of the magic. Now we're going to do columns. Now the whole point of this is to get news about pop-ups from a bunch of different resources, or maybe just a couple different blogs in this case we'll go through. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose some naming conventions that are pretty similar. So I just chose post title there, and I selected text. So I've got the text of all the titles now in all those results. And because I know that we're doing a dashboard and I've done this a bunch of times, we're going to do post link and then scroll down here and click link. As you can see, there's a bunch of different options. I personally try to keep it simple most of the time, but it does give you some granularity and complexity that you can work in later on as you tackle more complex projects. So we're going to grab the link. You'll notice that the link is very similar to the post title. And in fact, all that's different is, oops, I forgot to select that there. So select, hit train. So you can do that before or after. And you can also go back and rename and change the type. So I got the same text here, but it's links. And I'm really just doing this because I know the dashboard won't display the post link like I want it to. So I got post title as well. So what we'll do next is category. Well, actually, you know what? Let's do post summary next. So I just want to get the little snippet of text that it gives us ahead of time. Got it? And just keep following along with me doing exactly as I do, and you'll start to get the hang of it pretty quickly. Category. And then let's do date. And if you notice, there's a date time setting in the drop down. This is gets pretty granular and really specific, and in this case I'm not really looking to sort by date or anything like that necessarily. This, what we're going to do with this data set is really just monitor the new articles that come through and just click on the link and go to the actual page itself to grab that information. So it's not too important for us right now to really worry about being very specific about date and time. Additionally, if you copy it down in text like this, like I am, you can probably put it into like a Google spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet and get it to format how you'd please. So don't worry too much about that. Let's see if it grabs all of those. Awesome. Got them all. Perfect. So that's all the data we need. And then it wants us to train the total results. And got them. So we'll select those and click correct. And normally at this point it would ask me to go like the second page or something like that, but we're really just concerned about the first page, so that'll be it. That'll be all we have to do for that one. So we're going to do one more query. So let's do trunk show, because that's another term for pop-up that people use. And it's going to go back to Racked, or whatever the first page was that we defined, and it's going to type in the new query. Now when it does this on its own, it will be much faster than when it's playing it back for you, but right now it's just showing you the actions that it goes through. So it wants us to know if we found the data that we want, and yes, we have. And if we're doing pagination at this point, it would have said, hey, would you like to add a page, or does it have more than one page of results? Because it wants to, again, find consistency and get trained up. But since we're just grabbing the first page of results, we don't have to worry about that. So it's got all the info we want. So we just go through and confirm and make sure that it's got all the correct data, and it does. And most of the time it'll be like this. It'll be really simple. It'll be a situation where you're just going through and reconfirming the data that you picked out prior. A lot of what we're doing here is just learning to think creatively, and also kind of learning the ins and outs of the platform to make sure we're getting the data extracted the way that we want. So this is the fun part. Upload this to import.io. So we're going to do racked pop-up news. And it's going to take all that awesome data we just grabbed and put it up in the site. So we're going to have it take us to the data. It's worth noting that you can revisit this connector and reconfigure it, change it around. Also that this is available via API, so this type of info can be pulled in with an API and used inside your app or just for your employees, however you'd like to do it, if you do have technical skills to do that. Don't worry about it if not. We're going to make this very useful without. Okay. Let's wait for this thing to fill up with beautiful data. All right. So look at all this. These are all examples of pop-up shops and trunk shows. And this is really cool. So check this out. Now that I have this connector built, I can do another query and save like this. So it's going to go out and find results for sample sale as well. And there we get even more results. Perfect. So these are all the things that we mapped ourselves. Additionally, if you click over here, you get to see the widget that it came from. Again, we named that widget racked pop-up news and the data source. The results rows here, source page, so it takes you back to the exact same page. Now this will become more important when you're doing something like a crawl, where you have tons and tons and tons of source pages, but this is relatively simple here because it's the same page over and over again. Post title, post link, post summary, and that's all the elements that we had named previously. So I'm going to rename this React Pop-Up News again. Save that name, and then save the actual data set itself off to the right. Make sure you do both of those. Well, in fact, I mean, you could leave the name whatever it was if you'd like. Just make sure you're clicking save over here. Maybe later and share. We're going to click maybe later because we're not super worried about that right now. And in the next video, we're going to make another connector just like this so that we can combine them together into a data dashboard.